In these areas, those amber boys are really causing havoc, burning people's houses, killing, raping, abusing minors, and people's wives, since they have the power of guns. There is no way. Nevertheless, we are trying our best to do what we can to meet the people in their situation. We help people to see the face of Christ, who did not only preach, but fed the people when they needed to, and touched and raised them when they were down. This is a letter, an email I received yesterday from Cameroon, from one of our Mill Hill missionaries, Father Gileng. And he is in a very large parish just outside Bamenda, many outstations. It's a familiar story, a war where people are often fighting for their rights, for their human rights, and being put down, suppressed, repressed, killed, chased away from their homes, chased away from their country. It goes on all over the place. We've all heard about it, and I've seen it, whether it's in Gaza or in Ukraine, so many other places. And it begs the question, does it not? Can you imagine if you've lost everything? You've lost your family, your home, your friends, your country, your way of life. Wouldn't you say, where is God? Where is that powerful, creator, loving God that Jesus spoke of? Why is God silent? When I was in Kenya in January, I received news, or we received news, of the death of the Consolata missionary, Father Josiah Carl. And I knew the family, I knew him, actually from his school days, by the way. He was killed in Venezuela, not an easy country to live in or work in, especially as a missionary. And he fought for the rights of the Warua people in Guara. And that's probably what killed him. There's no formal investigation because that would stir up too much trouble. Anyway, point is, I went to the home to give my condolences to the family that I know. And what struck me there was the silence. Silence. You say "Mos Contrando," which is sorry for your problems, your trouble, and then you pray. Then you pray with the people, with the family. And then you sit with the family in silence, just with them, just in silence. Just to be with them, to comfort them, to say, I'm here, I'm with you. No easy answers, no shortcuts to why this happened, but just trust. Just trust. They say courage is fear after it has prayed. Courage is fear after it has prayed. And when we meet these fearful situations, it is often only prayer that we can use to respond to them. And we know these personal problems, our own tragedies, our own difficulties, our own struggles. Why, God, are you silent? Why don't you do something? Sometime. It's a good question. But Joseph can help us to address that question. Joseph is the silent man himself. Nothing of what he said, and he must have said quite a lot in his life, is recorded for good theological reasons, but just he's a silent man. He stands silent, bewildered, after his betrothed, Mary, is found pregnant. I don't understand. It's happening. And when he is forced, according to the story, to become a refugee, to be chased from his home, so many, he says nothing. He just obeys the will of God, trusts in God, doesn't ask why, just, I trust and I allow. I trust and I allow. And compound all of those situations with just looking after the Holy Family, looking after his family like any parent. All the worries and the struggles, the disappointments, the questions, the doubts, the fears. But he is silent. Now, there's all sorts of kinds of silence. One silence is, I came on the train on the Elizabeth line today, and it was quite busy, and no one was speaking. Everyone was looking at their phone, reading, or just staring into space, as I was. Complete silence. That's a certain kind of silence, isn't it? It's leave me alone silence. It's too early to talk silence. Then there's a sort of passive-aggressive silence, isn't there, where we say, I'm not cooperating with you, I'm not going to speak to you. It's juvenile, but we all sink into that sometimes. Ignore you. And then I like looking at people, by the way, I love watching people. And I notice very often, usually elderly couples in a restaurant or somewhere else, sitting together, not saying a word. Not a word. Now, they could have had a row, but I suggest, they're just happy to sit in silence together. And if one was missing, they would really feel it. So that's a silence of love. Deep silence of love, where you don't have to say anything. Just be. Just be. So, what can Joseph teach us? Well, I've already said it. Just to trust in God's love, even when we don't understand it, even when we find the burdens of life and the struggles and the tragedies we meet unbearable, we just have that silence of God. Thomas Halleck, a Czech priest who is a fantastic writer, spiritual writer, he says, he talks about the exquisite mystical music of God's silence. The exquisite mystical music of God's silence. That silence of God that encourages us in our deepest, darkest hour, the silence of God is, I'm here with you. I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm with you. Silence of God when we face disappointments and failures in ourselves, when we sin, old-fashioned, when we sin against each other. The silence is non-judgmental. It's okay. You can do better, but I'm with you. I forgive you. I lead you home. It is the silence that Joseph experienced that will give us the courage to embrace the way of the cross, which always ends in new life, the new life of the resurrection.